So Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Manchester United have completed their first deal ahead of the January transfer window and given the here we go. Some interesting statistics have emerged on Rasmus Hojlund and reports emerging about Rasmus Hojlund and pretty much highlighting how he's been ignored and how the poor sap of Man United is making his job mission impossible. Ten Hag speaks about Hojlund sort of being ignored for service, the problems at Manchester United. Ten Hag then had a press conference ahead of the Man U Liverpool game where he said some interesting comments that we're going to dive into on leadership and Manchester United this season. And then we're going to get into what Man United's rumoured starting 11 is to be later tomorrow versus Liverpool. There's a leaked starting 11 going about. We'll dive into that and then we'll get into my starting 11. But firstly, please do hit that like button if you have not already, and of course subscribe down below if you're new to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, takeover news, updates and more. So the opening story coming out said breaking Donny van de Beek to Eintracht Frankfurt is here we go. With a verbal agreement now in place, it will be a loan deal until the end of the season with a 12.8 million buy option, says Fabrizio Romano. So Fabrizio Romano has pretty much confirmed Donny van de Beek to Frankfurt on loan is going to happen. It's 99.999% done. I hope Donny goes on loan. I hope he's absolutely brilliant on loan so they trigger that 12.8 million buyout clause, because the best thing that can happen to Donny van de Beek now is he has a great loan spell. He plays football regularly. We sell him, we get a bit of cash for him, and he doesn't get injured again, because I think that there's a good player in Donny, and I think he's wasted so many years at United. His last season at Ajax stopped because of COVID. He came to United, he didn't play. Didn't play. Ten Hag came in, and then he got injured when he started to play, and he's barely kicked a football in 4 years. I think it's so important that Donny van de Beek gets this move and starts playing football, because I'm a big fan of Donny van de Beek, and I'm sad that it never worked out, because I always thought when we did use him, we used him in Bruno's role, but I always wanted to see him play next to Bruno. Ten Hag's been playing with these two number 8s, these two number 10s, and I'm thinking I don't want to see Bruno and McTominay as the advanced 8s. I want to see Bruno and Donny. Yes, Donny's not played in a few years now and is probably nowhere near the potential was meant to be, but Donny was the guy who could have been in that role that McTominay's been doing, that Eriksen's been doing, that Mount's been doing, and had, Donny come to United and it come off, and had we utilised Donny better, because the few games we played with Donny and Bruno where Donny was deeper and Bruno was more advanced, I thought he was really good. So it's a shame it didn't work out with Donny van de Beek, but I think it's one of those situations where he just kind of got to go, and I think his head's not been at United for a while, and that's why Ten Hag was reluctant to pick him, because he was looking to leave in the summer and he didn't get that move and he was disappointed he didn't leave. Ten Hag said the reason he's not been picked as much is because his head is not at Manchester United. But one thing I'll say about Donny van de Beek is he's not been played. He's been treated appallingly by Ollie, by the manager when he came, and completely ignored for no reason. Barely played, got an opportunity, but Donny did not complain once. Donny did not leak things. He acted like a top professional. Even in interviews, he acted like a top professional. And, he's just been a little bit unlucky. So hopefully things work out for Donny. Now, a player that I need things to work out for, because he's a fantastic player and I feel really sorry for him, and this is not because he's not getting the lack of minutes like Donny, but it's because of the lack of service, is Rasmus Hojlund, who is the Premier League striker that's received the fewest passes in the league this season. So if you want to talk about service, you can look at Son, you can look at Matheus Cunha, you can look at a lot of these attackers here, and you can see they're getting mass amounts of service. And then you go right to the very bottom, and that is Rasmus Hojlund. Now, obviously, passes received to the striker isn't all about service, in the sense of it doesn't necessarily mean that pass is going to be a brilliant pass that's going to play the striker for on goal. But if you can see that we're passing to our strikers the least out of any team in the league, you can see there's clearly a problem. Now, this is not to do with Rasmus Hojlund. This is not to do with Anthony Martial. This is to do with Manchester United, one, continuously going long and avoiding the midfield and build up, which means it's harder for us to control games and create chances. 2, I just think that lack of quality. 3, the lack of balance in midfield, where there's basically the back 4, Amrabat, a big massive hole, and then the attack, which makes it harder to play in. 4, the fact that we switch out wide to the wingers and hope the wingers create something out of nothing, which is not fair on the wingers, but also the wingers don't have that crossing quality. We've not got the fullbacks or wingers with the crossing quality of other sides. We don't build up well. We don't control games well, which results in Rasmus Hojlund getting lack of service. And to be honest, the players just aren't involving him as well. They're not intelligent enough to see his runs. Hojlund makes these runs and we don't pick him out. We don't have those players intelligent enough in possession to pick out those runs or to put that cross in or to pick out his movement. And it's a shame because I think, you know what, there's a great player in there. We've seen in the Champions League he's capable of scoring goals. I know that he's going to be a fantastic player, but he needs the service. Ten Hag was asked about Hojlund, and obviously a lot of people who write negative stuff about Hojlund not scoring goals, but at the end of the day, he has been scoring goals. And Ten Hag said, as you said, he scored in the highest level in the Champions League with 5 goals. That's a huge performance from a young player, and you see he has the potential. I'm sure he will get there and score in the Premier League. I see how he works in training. Rasmus Hojlund is incredibly hardworking. Rasmus Hojlund makes space off the ball for his opponents, makes space off the ball for his teammates with his runs. He drags defenders out, which will create space for Garnacho. He can hold the ball, he can dribble the ball, he can head the ball, he can strike the ball. His ball striking is brilliant. We've seen how good he is in the Champions League. There's a good player there, and it's very obvious the problem isn't Hojlund, it's the structural setup around Hojlund. Now, I want to talk about the Liverpool game. I want to talk about the starting lineup versus Liverpool. I want to talk about the news ahead of the Liverpool game because there is no Bruno Fernandes, there's no Anthony Martial, there's no Mason Mount, there's no Eriksen, there's no Maguire, there's no Casemiro, there's no Lisandro Martinez, there's no Amad Diallo, and there's no Malacia. That is confirmed. And I think that's particularly worrying, particularly because we've not won at Anfield in a couple of years. I don't think we scored at Anfield. We haven't won at Anfield or scored at Anfield in like 3-4 years or something ridiculous like that. We lost 7-0 and 4-0 on our last visits there. And we've got this big injury list with no Bruno Fernandes. Even players like Rashford are a doubt. Even players like Luke Shaw are a doubt. So I think going to Liverpool is scary. But I think because everyone expects Liverpool to win and everyone's like Liverpool's going to batter and annihilate Manchester United, I think that actually takes the pressure off Manchester United in a weird way. And I think Klopp was using psychology in his press conference to be like, oh, you know what? It's actually easier for the team that just lost 7-0 because they'll be more hungry. No, it isn't. They're going to be lacking confidence. But I feel like because everyone expects Liverpool to win, maybe it'll take that pressure off United and maybe that it will just feed that hunger from United of, oh, we want to prove to everyone that we can win this. Now, what has Ten Hag said ahead of the game? What's he said about the lineup and who's going to be in the starting lineup? So Ten Hag made a few interesting comments in his press conference. Ten Hag said, good is not good enough. We're inconsistent and I have to work on how the team will play. Ten Hag said last year, the first half we played decent and then we got hammered just after half time. Then we collapsed. That can't happen, but it's last year. It's a different team and different players for a part at least. We won't ignore it, but we'll be confident and we have to fight, challenge and go there with the idea to prepare to win. So Erik Ten Hag is saying good hasn't been good enough. We've been inconsistent. We got hammered last year, but we have to look at the positive. We were in it in the first half and we were very much in the game in the first half. We were unlucky to be 1-0 down in the first half. I remember complaining at half time thinking, oh, we've done enough to score. We're so unlucky to be 1-0 down. It's so frustrating. And then because we went 1-0 down, their mentality just drops. Because we conceded so early in the second half, the mentality just shifted. The players went out and Liverpool just scored 7 because it dropped. Liverpool had that bit of luck that every shot on target went in. And I think there's games where other teams have had a higher XG against us, like Bournemouth, but scored 3, but Liverpool scored 7 because they were clinical. I think, to be honest, the performance in the Liverpool 7-0 was probably our 5th worst under 10, or not our worst, but our worst scoreline. But we were in the game in the first half. And I guess we can look at that as a positive. But, I mean, we are really scraping the barrel for positives here. Ten Hag also said on Liverpool that Liverpool are playing good, no doubt. But we have some more tough games in the period. Bayern a very good side as well. Liverpool are top of the Premier League. They're going to be hard to beat. Ten Hag did say we could go head-to-head with teams like Bayern, and we've proven that. And I don't think we've really proven we can go head-to-head with Bayern because we lost both games and we didn't deserve to win both games. Like, we had one shot in 90 minutes against Bayern Munich at home. I do think when Ten Hag is saying stuff like we played well against Bayern, we went toe-to-toe to them, I think surely you don't think that, but I don't know, maybe he does think that. And then, of course, leadership. No one knows who's going to be captain because there's no Bruno. I bet he's going to go give McTominay captain. He's going to give it to McTominay, isn't he? But he was asked about leadership because I think that was a massive issue versus Liverpool last time. Our mentality dropped and Bruno was heavily criticised. And he said, look, we've talked about this issue many times. These players have proved they can deal with that. And that Sunday is the next challenge. That is our demand. We have to do it repeatedly in consistency. And Ten Hag sort of ignoring the question about a leadership issue. Ten Hag's kind of ignoring the question about being backed by big teams. He's just kind of evading it. And I think, to be honest, today's a massive test. Going to Anfield's going to be a massive test because it's going to be, can Manchester United have the mentality to get over this slump away from home against big teams, not beating any side in the big 9? Do Manchester United have the mentality? Do United have the ability to go toe-to-toe with a big team without their captain, without a lot of their big players and get a result? Hopefully they do. But let's talk about the lineup that's reportedly going to be United's lineup ahead of the game versus Liverpool. And apparently it's going to be Wan-Bissaka at right back with Dalot at left back with Manchester United. Not quite sure if Shaw's available yet. But if Shaw is available, I do expect potentially Luke Shaw to come back in with Varane and Johnny Evans expected to be the centre-back. I think he's more interested in playing Evans over Lindelof at the moment, which is fair enough. So reportedly, this is going to be the back five. I think if Luke Shaw's fit, I wouldn't mind seeing him at left centre-back next to Varane because that actually did work. The Luke Shaw-Varane pairing did very much work. It's going to be Amrabat in the pivot with obviously Maino and McTominay. I mean, you could maybe say, or maybe Hannibal Mejbri would be in there because he's the only other midfielder that's available. But I think it's very obvious that this is going to be the midfield three with Hojlund as the striker. Garnacho is going to come in on the left wing here. Rashford will likely be on the bench if available, with Antony coming in on the right wing. So it's not going to be a heavily changed lineup, really. It's just sort of going to be Maino in for Bruno, really, ahead of the last game. There could be changes if Luke Shaw passes a late fitness test, where he could go in for Wan-Bissaka or he could go in for Johnny Evans there. There could be changes if Rashford passes a late fitness test, maybe coming in for Antony, but I'm not quite sure. But for the midfield, that looks like it's got to be the midfield because I don't think many people are available. But I think what will be interesting, especially because we want to be more defensive at Anfield, is I think Kobbie Mainoo is going to drop a lot deeper next to Amrabat. And I think instead of playing with 2 8s, I wouldn't be surprised if we played with 2 6s. But the big problem is McTominay's got to get involved in the game. I think too many games this season, Scott McTominay's been a bit of a ghost. And I think, look, he can score goals, he can make those box-crashing runs, but is he going to drop deep to receive the ball off Amrabat and Mainoo? Is he going to play those key passes into Antony? Because he's the only advanced midfielder that's not played a key pass this season, which despite all his goals is a little bit worrying. But listen, people, that is the preview to Manchester United versus Liverpool. That is the reported starting lineup tomorrow. Let me know in the comments, who do you think is going to win? Do you think there's a chance for United? Smash your like, smash your subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.